يا رجائي يا رجائي يا رجائي
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's session we are going to discuss the story of fathers of the prophets, that is Prophet Ibrahim A.S. He is known as the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very important title given to him due to his continuous trials that he has been tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in various ways, and he stood straight with the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this make him gave him such a high status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he has been known as Khalilullah, the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as the father of the prophet, because if you're going to study the lineage of different prophets, you're going to find out that he is the one from whose son the prophecy has been transferred to different generations. And we are blessed to because our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is also from the family of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Is we are going to study his whole generation to generation. We are going to study his Hashra Mubashara, so we will get to know that the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam has a family root, or Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a family root with the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So let's, before starting the story, we're going to see some of the qualities of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam that are very specific to him, and that these are the qualities which have made him different from the other prophets, and it has been mentioned clearly in different chapters of the Quran, starting from chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3. In different stories, different chapters, you're going to find out a glimpse of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. The story of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his attributes are mentioned specifically by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what are the character of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam? We are going to see that. So the most important feature of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was that he was an intelligent person, and the intelligence of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was notified with an incident that is quoted in chapter of the Quran, in which Tafsir Ibn Kasir, I am reading it. It is basically that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was sitting, and he was pondering over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And first he has looked at he thought that the stars are quite bright, so they may be our God, because he was in search of finding the real God. So when he looked at the stars, so he found that the stars glows only at night, and in the morning they has no shine, they are not bright enough, we cannot see them. So he came to the conclusion that they might not be our God, and they are really not our God, because they only shine at night. Then again he looked at the moon, and the moon Florence actually attracted him. So he thought that, okay, so this is my God, because it is shining so brightly and it is quite bigger than the star, so maybe the moon is my God. But then he get to know that moon also stays only at night, and in the day we cannot see moon, so it cannot be God. And then he looked at the sun and he said, okay, so the sun is more bigger and it's quite huge, and in the radiance of the energy it is showing, it is more than these two. So okay, this is going to be my perfectly, I'm going to say that this is my God. But that was also not true, because the sun only stays in the daytime and in the night it goes off. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was wondering about these things, and he came to the conclusion that yes, whatever I am thinking of, that these materialistic things are my God, but their absence and their presence are making me very disturbed, and I am begging, I am praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide me rightly about that who is my God. And for this reason, he then came to the conclusion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it to him. He poured into his heart the Hidayah, and he got to know who is the true God. So these were some of the things that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was doing, and it was questioning things. He questioned actually the presence of the idols, and he was thinking about this thing, that the idols that his father used to make, and the people were worshipping, that the people of his town were worshipping those idols which his father was making. So he once asked his father that, you are making these things, and then you pray in front of them, and then you ask them for the things, and you think that they are your God, they are your creator, and they cannot create themselves, you are creating them, so how can they be your God? So the questioning of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was very good. He used to question the things which is of real importance for the human beings, and he questioned this thing in front of the father. And then I just shared the incident of that he was looking at the stars and the moons and the sun, and he questioned the presence of these things as well, that whether they are our God or not. So coming to that story, as I was sharing with you, that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when asked his father that why are you worshipping these idols when they cannot even move from place to place, they cannot breathe, and they are so helpless that they cannot even make themselves, you are making them, and still you are worshipping them. So why don't you do this thing which is out of the senses, it is not something logical? And the father became very angry, and he said, if you are going to ask me these questions on and off and continuously, so I'm going to kick you out of my house, and you are not going to stay with me longer. So Prophet is Ibrahim alayhi salam's was very blunt and bold, and he asked about these questions to his father. And it was not only questioning he was doing, he was reasoning it, and he was giving the reasons for the thing. Like, for I just mentioned with you that he reasoned the thing that how can the idols are going to work out, because they cannot move even from place to place, they cannot breathe, they cannot talk, they cannot eat. So how they're going to look after the affairs of the world? So these are something that he was giving a logical reasoning. So he was looking at the solution with very logic. He was using all his senses. He was using his eyes. He was using his mind. He was using his hands and his mouth for all the things to give a logical reasons to whatever he was thinking. This thinking quality of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was mentioned in the Quran chapter, and I have shared the incident with you that he looked deep into the sky, and then he looked at the sun and the moon and the stars. In the coming chapters, in the coming of the next slides in the stories, you're going to see the great quality of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when different kinds of the tests are being thrown on him, and he showed patience to those tests, and he arbitrated them in a very good way. Power of speaking in front of the whole community. There was a huge town who was worshipping these idols, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam stood in front of them, even in front of his father. He stood up and he said that whatever you are worshipping, they're not worthy of worship, and you should stop worshipping them. So this is a great power Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed many of the prophets with, but the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam stood for justice in a very small and tender age. He was very young, and he was speaking in front of his father, and he was speaking and preaching to the people of his town, so that they can come to the justice, or they can come to the righteous path. And last but not the least, that he stood for the justice no matter what were the situation he is going to face. A lot of trouble because of his standing with the justice, but he stood firmly with a belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he is the one who is going to rescue him. So, as I told you in the start of the story, that when he shared with his father, and the father and the people of town, they were not listening to the preaching of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam then schemed something, and he made a plan that when the people of the town will go out for a proper religious ceremony that held yearly, so then I'm going to stay back, and I'm going to give them a lesson. So what he did when the people of the town were going out for worshipping and to celebrate that special event of the year, there was no one left behind, and the Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam went to that special place where all these idols were placed and the people used to go and worship there. And he took a sword along with himself, and he break all the idols and then placed that sword on the shoulder of the one big gigantic idol. And it was just to make up a plan that actually it was he was the one, the idol who you cannot even move, who has done this all mess. But when the people of the town returned back, and when they saw what happened to their gods, their false god, they got very angry. And each of the people of the town, each one of them were asking from the other person who is the real culprit behind doing this heinous act, because these are our god and someone has broken them, and there must be an anger behind it if someone is doing it. So then they later on came to the conclusion that all the people of the town were raising hand to Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam because he was not in favor of them. And they asked the father of Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam father also told that yes, my son was against it, and they caught Ibrahim alayhis salam and bring it into the gathering, and he was asked that why did he do this. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam was very intelligent, and he said that actually it was not me, but it is basically your big gigantic idol who has done this, because he is holding that sword. Why don't you ask him? Because you think that he is your god. So maybe he got angry and he has broken those all little one statues or the idols or the your false god. So why don't you ask him? So the people then paused for a little while, and they thought that whatever he is trying to teach us, we are not going to listen. And replied, and they replied to Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam that whatever you are saying, this is totally wrong. You know that they cannot move, and we know it is your work, and you have done this thing. So you are now going to face the punishment for doing such act. So they lit up a fire, and the fire was quite huge, and that fire was burned for months. With some of the people said that for months it was burned, only to make it that kind of a fire which has a lot of temperature and which can burn even the birds and those which are flying above the fire, they were burned. So no one was going to rescue him, and no one can even go near to Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam. And when the fire was on its peak, the Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam was brought near, and he was thrown into the fire from the faraway place. And many of the narration says when Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam was thrown into the fire, so he was his clothes were taken off, and then he was thrown out. And many says that when he was in the fire, so the fire actually burned off all his clothes. But there is a difference of opinion about it. So let's come to this thing that whatever was happened there, but he was thrown into the fire. So when he was thrown into the fire, so one of the angel came down to the earth, and he asked Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam that if you want something, so I may grant it to you now. And look at the patient, and look at the trust of Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam, that he replied with a great the kind of a reply that you can expect only from the true believer. He said, I just want the happiness of my God. I just want the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world and in the hereafter. I want him to see him happy. If he's happy with me, that I can burn in this fire, and he'll be happy with it. So I'm content with it. Whatever is happening to me, it's okay with me. So I only ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's happiness. And then you know what the miracle happened to Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam, that this fire became a place from a garden of heavens for him. And the people from outside the town, when they were looking from far away, they think that actually the fire is burning, and the Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam is burning inside the fire. But this was not happening actually inside the fire. The fire has been made a garden from the heavens for Prophet Ibrahim alayhis salam, and he was enjoying his stay within that fire. So when the fire then got a little low, and the people of the town can see that what is happening inside, and they came hurriedly near to the fire to see the dead body of the Prophet. They were amazed to see that he was alive, and there was not even an inch of his body being burned by the fire. So this was a great miracle, and it was a great incident for them to accept the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but their heart was so hard that they didn't accepted the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam finally came to the conclusion that okay, these people are not going to listen to me, and I have to spread the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the whole world. So I have to leave this place, and for this purpose he decided to migrate. While he was migrating from that place, so three of the people actually accompanied him. That was Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and a very beautiful woman, and the name of the woman was Sarah. So the Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha alayhi salatu salama, she actually accompanied Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Prophet Lut alayhi salam. Actually, he was a very young boy at that time, and when he saw the miracle of this fire, so he accepted that yes, there is one God, and that is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and then this lady, we cannot say prophet, but yes, she was a very pious lady, and her name is mentioned in the Quran. So she is very beautiful young lady, and later on she became the wife of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Or during this day, I think they when they were going out of this town, so she became the wife of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So these three people together decided to leave that place. So from the whole town, only three people accepted the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they accepted Islam. So now this was the first part of the story, and I hope you people have enjoyed it. Keep sharing the stories of the Quran that we have started it, and I hope in the future we are going to continue it. And the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that who goes seeking knowledge, then he is in Allah's cause until and unless he returns. So seeking knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best jihad that you can do, and please do ponder over it.